3 each time to be placed in the queue for comment. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes total per item. The first 1 through 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 through 25 have 2 minutes. And if time remains, the next 26 plus participants have 1.5 minutes to speak. For our hearing impaired residents present, we have wireless headsets available through our AV team in the back of the council chambers. The city council regular meeting is called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson. Here. Cohen.
Here.
Delgadillo.
Here.
Henkel.
Here.
Leslie.
Here.
Lim. Here. Marshallton.
Here.
Wynn.
Present.
Schaff.
Here.
And Ward.
He'll
Here.
be joining a little bit late. A quorum is present. Councilmember Ward and Councilmember Henkel are joining virtually this evening. Therefore, we will use a roll call vote throughout the meeting. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. If council members are given an opportunity to speak for a second time on an item, they should limit their comments to 2 minutes. We'll plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We will begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for a meeting. Are there any changes to the order of business? Mayor Pro Tem Schaaf.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move item 11B, the employment agreement with the city and county attorney, to the consent agenda.
Great, thank you. Any objections to that? Nope. All right, then item 11B will be reviewed under the consent agenda. Does any other member of the council have any comments or questions regarding the agenda? Are there any objections to this agenda being approved as modified? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. There are no items under petitions and communications this evening. And before we begin the public comment section of our agenda, I'd like to welcome a guest this evening. A member of Congresswoman Brittany Petterson's staff is here to provide the community with some updates and resources.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Alma Carrillo. I am a staffer for Congresswoman Petterson. Just here to let the residents of Broomfield know that if you are having any issues with the federal agency, please give our office a call. The number is 303-274-7944. We're also having some mobile office hours if people want to come in person. We are having our first one next week on the 17th at the Balmoral Library in Lakewood, and having one here in Broomfield on January 30th at the Broomfield Library in Eisenhower Meeting Room 1. If there's any questions, please feel free to give us a call or visit our website, petterson.house.gov. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Thank you very much for the information, Ms. Carrillo. We appreciate it. Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you. We'll now continue with regular public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than those listed on the agenda. So please, if you'd like to speak, come up to the podium, state your name and neighborhood for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Chuck Swain. I live in Wilcox. I've got some issues that I want to talk about tonight. Primarily the lack of transparency by the city. I have become aware of the McKay Lake watershed upstream of McKay Lake outfall systems conceptual plan. This whole deal with the watershed started in 2001 before we annexed into the city. We were not made aware of it. Before we annexed Spruce Meadow and our area into the city, we worked 1.5 years with your planning and development department before we brought it to the city council for approval. Not one word on this sort of thing. Nothing, not one word up to now, until I was lucky enough to have somebody shed a bunch of information to me so I could be aware. We got the engineering report from Mueller. We got every damn sentence and every little line of communication. Right now, my attorneys are just licking their chops. It's going to be fun. The issues as I see it, Frico, the ditch company, I own my property since 82. I've lived there on it since 92. I've seen the water flood out of the ditch, irrigation ditch, several times, probably 10, 12 times. And it goes over the property north of me and then goes down into the McKay ditch. Every time it's flooded, it's not because of too much rain. It's because of lack of work by the ditch company cleaning the goddamn ditches. That was the issue this spring when we had the flooding again. I was over there working next to the ditch, cleaning the tributary to my property, Sayuke, with. The ditch was full of 2 feet of brush, sticks, stones, garbage. They didn't clean it. I asked the ditch rider why. He says, the ditch company tells me we don't have the money to clean them. That's why it all flooded this spring. Not because we have a bad plan, it's because we have no plan. And you guys are letting the ditch company push you around. As far as your Parks and Recreation people, we had a face-to-face talk with him in one of his meetings, me, my wife, and Melissa Masoni. And he swore that they were done trying to put a trail up in that area. And now I see this plan where they want to take 990 feet of my property to put a trail and a ditch in. Not happening, folks. Not happening. I've got $10 million set aside now for legal. If I need more, I'll do it. We're going to stop you in your tracks. It's not going to happen. And this whole thing could be resolved. If you let me take it for a year and you gave me $1 million, we'd have no issue. Frico might have their lunch handed to them in court, but they would. But every problem we have up there is because the ditches are 4 foot in diameter. They should be 8. And we have no water problem on my property now. You want to bring it into it? That's bull. It just won't happen. You want to run a ditch to take your rainwater away? Run it down Irving in your right of way, put it into 144th tubing and get rid of it. That'll be one of our points in court. I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. I don't care if it takes me 10 years, but you guys are going to be stopped in your damn tracks and it's over. Or otherwise you can come clean and be transparent. But I'm not going to put up with this stuff. I beat Washington, D.C. before. I beat Jefferson County before. I beat Harris County in Texas. You guys are just small fries to whatever else I've done, but I will do it if I have to.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Marty Robinson. I live in the Anthem Ranch community for about the last 16, 17 years. And I just thought I'd, since I'm here with some questions about another matter, that I would make a couple of comments about inflation and give you just a few facts from my own circumstance. And that I'm a senior, so, you know, I own my own house, but my house hasn't inflated for the last 3 years. The valuation's been basically flat for 3 years. So hopefully that'll be reflected in the future tax assessments. My problems with inflation are not variable costs like food and energy and entertainment and dining out and liquor expenses and all the other fun and life expenses. Those are variable and I can control those. Those are not my problem. My problem are my fixed costs. And of course, I don't have a problem because I'm basically a wealthy guy. I don't live on Social Security. I'm fortunate. A lot of my neighbors are, but I think you should be aware of some data here. This last year, my house insurance went up 40%. My car insurance went up 25%. My HOA dues have gone up 15% for the next 3 years, is my understanding. That's related to reserve allocations. It's not just increases. It would cost $3,000 a month to rent my 1,827 square foot house. That's according to Zillow. That's a lot of money for someone renting I have a modest lifestyle. I don't have a flush lifestyle, but that's a modest house these days, 1,800 square feet. Of course, we're in a kind of pretty nice community. My property taxes, as you well know, are probably going to go up roughly 20%, and that's after the senior rebate. So So those are numbers I thought you should be aware of because I'm okay. You know, I just opened the spigot a little bit on my investment income and I offset this stuff. You know, and my wife's a good shopper, so she's pretty tight on the bucks. And so, you know, we don't have a problem. Basically, my food expense really hasn't got up more than a few percent year over year. You know, my gasoline, I don't drive much, so it's not a problem for me. I only put a couple thousand miles a year on my car. So I'm in good shape and my neighbors are in good shape, basically. But for people on lower income, God, I'd love to see you show a little more sensitivity to them. You know, I really would. And so I really have to empathize with them. Thanks very much.
Do you have anybody else in person want to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Linda Swain, and I'm just following up on Chuck. And, you know, $6 million is what you people have put out there for this plan that you want to go through our property that we love, adore. And we weren't even told by our Ward 5 member. We're not told by anybody, but accidentally find out about it. And it's very heartbreaking and scary. What are you going to do next to us? It's like we have to watch everything and dot every I. And I just, we should be in the plans. We should help each other. And what you're doing to us is, in even my mom's land in 1948, she built it. And you're going across my sister's land and planning on doing that as well with this plan from FRECO or flood thing that could go down McKay Ditch right now and fix properly. So I hope you reconsider everything. And like I say, I'm following up on Chuck because our land means so much to us and it would to you. And we're not just agriculture. We have a place for birds, for wildlife, for trees. We've plotted it. We put time and energy into it. So please reconsider all that planning that you're going on and just, we're number one to take half of our property and have you people go through it or have people walk through it. It's not what we bought it for. It's not how we've lived. So like I say, please reconsider and be open with your people. And I don't even think the Broomfield residents know you took $6 million to go towards this project. And that's a lot of money. And following up on this fine gentleman here and how everybody's suffering financially. You know, we'll use our money wisely and talk to us. That's what we are, people. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to our city and county manager real quick because I'm pretty sure people on council don't know what you're talking about. We're a part-time council. We're not involved in the day-to-day processes, and we certainly aren't familiar with this at this stage. I only know what you're talking about because a resident emailed me. And so I asked staff, I was like, I don't even know what they're talking about. So something that's in a very preliminary design stage, we're not going to be involved in. We're the policy arm. So we see things at the very end. We're not involved in the process from planning to, so honestly, I'm going to tell you, I know that Ward 5 doesn't know what you're talking about. To be clear, we're not trying to be withhold information or we're not trying to lack transparency, but we're just not involved in everything that goes on in the city and county. People think that I'm an expert on everything, and I'm definitely not. We have to rely on our professional staff to run the city and county. That's not our job. So we don't know everything that's going on in every part of the city and county. I'm just going to be brutally honest, but I'll let our city and county manager explain what this is.
This is not a CCOB project. This is a Westminster, City of Westminster project. It's the North Area Management Plan site improvements. So, and I'm familiar with the Swains. So as soon as Mr. Swain got up there, it immediately got my attention. We'll follow up on this. We'll reach back out to you. We are not aware either. So FRECO Ditch is an independent legal entity that It's not something, Mr. Swain, of walking all over us legally. You've already spoken with your attorney. I would continue to go down that path, as we don't have oversight, nor can we provide direction to FRICO. We can certainly reach out to our fellow colleagues at the City of Westminster and get more information, but I'm not familiar with that plan either. It's in the infancy stages. They're gathering community feedback right now. They do have a tentative path. And what I'm looking at is on the web for the City of Westminster is where I'm getting my information right now. Mayor, would you like Ms. Allen to come up and fill in some of these gaps, or would you prefer we do
Because I
it?
think everybody up here is puzzled, and I want it to be clear to my colleagues as well. We're getting blamed for things that we really don't have anything to do with.
Ms.
Hi,
Allen?
I'll do my best, not anticipating this project tonight, but my name is Katie Allen. I'm the city and county engineer. And let me give you a little bit of history. Over the past, so I've been with Broomfield 28 years. I'd say over the past 10 years in particular, we've gotten a lot of complaints from the residents in the Wilcox area about drainage. There really is no formal drainage system in the Wilcox neighborhood. It's a large lot residential. Drainage generally works because there's a lot of open land where rainfall and storm runoff can be absorbed into the land. The main drainage system is stormwater flows into FRICO's irrigation ditch. This is actually not allowed. This is in our criteria. Stormwater must be separated from irrigation water. So this frustrates FRICO and it frustrates the residents because they're not out maintaining their ditch as the city would maintain storm sewer structures. And so there's just frustration all around. So after those complaints, we worked with the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District at the time, now Mile High Flood Control District, just to come up with what we call an outfall systems plan. And that's a high-level planning document. How would we go about dealing with the stormwater in this area? And we have outfall system plans on most of our drainage channels through the city, our major ones. It doesn't mean we're about to go do those improvements. It's just a roadmap. How would we do this? How would we accomplish it in this rural residential area where there are no drainage easements or rights of way right now today? And so a study was done in 2018. It was concluded in 2019. It was managed by, as I said, Mile High Flood District. We did have a public process. They sent out postcards. There was a public meeting. People came. They looked at alternatives as to how it would be accomplished. And again, it was at a really high level. Part of the timing, though, was one of those reaches of the storm sewer runs along the north side of 144th. And we wanted to get the storm sewer in 144th right because we were expanding 144th, right? We don't want to go in there and put in a 54-inch storm sewer when we actually needed a 72-inch. So the timing of the study was key for that project. But the upper branch through the Wilcox Estates was not scheduled for implementation for some time. But we have gotten calls since that time. When is this going to happen? When is Broomfield ever going to start on this? So it is in our 5-year plan. And as you know, the 5-year plan changes. I think it's shown to possibly start design work or planning next year, but that is contingent on if we have partnership funding from Mile High Flood District. And we don't have plans that say we're going to take X property from any property owner. It's just really conceptual. And that process of coming up with a plan will take several years. And then construction would be many, many more years in terms of setting aside funding with the Mile High Flood District. A lot of people on council are familiar with how long it's taken us to work on Nissen Channel, for instance. I think that started 15 years ago. So there's no imminent project. There's no secret that we're about to come in and do storm sewer improvements or property takes. I think it's a big misunderstanding. And this plan isn't something we've worked on recently. We were all caught a little bit by surprise that suddenly the work we did in 2018 was a hot topic in the last month. So I hope that helps. That's my summary.
Mayor, if
Thank
I
you, Ms.
may,
Allen.
Miss Allen, would you be kind enough to spend just a couple of minutes with the Swains? It-
Great, so that's just highly conceptual and I'm happy to walk you through that more, not here at this forum.
And how about the $6 million that was taken?
All right, well, I've totally derailed public comment and that's my fault. So I think you guys should have a meeting offline. It sounds like there's a lot of gossip going on in Wilcox and I'm getting accused of not paying attention, which I really didn't even know about this project. So yes, I serve on the Mile High Flood District, but we approve funding once a month for projects that are all ready to go. We don't do deep dives into future projects. It's not that kind of board. So I just want to be really clear that no one's trying to hide anything. It's just not on council's radar yet because it hasn't come to us.
I asked Pete Dunleavy straight face to face in the meeting about any other plans for trails and stuff, because they were trying to stick one right down next to the. He said, no, we gave up on that, no more in that area. That was only.
All right, Mr. Swain, I'm going to call you in a more appropriate setting. I have your number, so I'm going to call you. And we can set up some time to talk about it, but we have to get on with the business that's on the agenda. So I do apologize. I wanted to understand more, and I will call you tomorrow.
The actual plan has so many conceptual errors in it that the attorneys are just excited to bring them apart.
Okay, well, I'll call you tomorrow. Thank you. You can sleep tonight. Thank you both. Now we'll go to our callers on the phone, but I broke all the rules, didn't I? And our first caller is Kathy. You're on and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Kathy, and I'm the person that sent the petition in concerning the elimination of Boulder Air for air monitoring. So we're kind of all scratching our head trying to figure out what happened, why Broomfield actually chose the air monitoring program that is not protective of our health and safety and decided to cancel the program Boulder Air that is protective of our health and safety. So the reasons are outlined in the petition, but we really want to know what happened and we want to reverse that decision. We want to bring this up as new business or however, you know, I'm not on council, so I don't know your correct terminology. New business, get 2 people to push it forward and retake another vote on it. The reasons that Ajax is not protective of our health and safety, and it also costs basically twice as much as it should because they have a very highly inflated cost on the canister analysis. They're doing 260 canister analysis, the weekly ones. Those don't need to be done during the production phase. So right there, you're going to save $200,000, $300,000. There's no need to do that. Even their own publications show that everything goes down in the production phase because you've gone through everything that emits most of the air emissions that harm health. So it costs too much. The quality of the results, there are problems with PIDs from the environment, temperature, humidity, wind, and things like that affect the performance. And you had to toss out the data from over half of the trigger canisters. So we don't think that's a very high quality result. Those are the ones that we typically rely on the most. And then we want to know what's going on with the air, like pretty much immediately, so we know if we should go outside or not. And when these samples are taken of the air, it takes weeks to get the results back. And that's not appropriate, a long lead time. So none of the citizens who were not talked to, or this was not discussed with any one of us. It was quite a big surprise that you were going to eliminate Boulder Air just at the snap of your fingers and pick the program that wasn't Ajax monitoring, that was not protective of our health and safety. And another thing that Ajax does that is detrimental is they take a very short sample time. So if you remember the Marshall Fire, when you first got that first sniff of smoke in the air, I'm assuming that you noticed that it was getting worse with each breath that you took if you were outside, because that first sniff, that first 15 seconds, and that's their sample time. And they've lowered the millivolt so that the trigger canister goes off sooner. And then it takes the sample at the early onset of a plume that's coming towards it. None of that is good for
Kathy,
measuring
can you
the
please
amount.
wrap up?
Yeah,
your time
none of
has
that's
expired.
good for measuring. None of that's good for measuring the amount of health harming chemicals in the air. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Melissa. Melissa, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Melissa Missoni, and I apologize. I know we've already passed this point of conversation, but I think I just wanted to clarify maybe why there is some confusion. So council did approve the CIP project that is currently in the county of Broomfield. And when you allocated and moved such a large amount of money in December to the CIP project that has been in the works since 2014, it raised some concerns. And when the conceptual design analysis includes several properties of forced right-of-way acquisitions, I hope you can understand why people maybe are trying to seek answers. And I appreciate Katie Allen and I appreciate Rebecca Baker, but the alternative analysis has already been approved through the conceptual design. So I just, as a property owner that it will affect and further forced right-of-way acquisitions, there are people that have concerns that the project, where we are with the project right now. So I hope you can understand the immensity of the passion right now because there is confusion when our properties are already listed, the amount of acreage that is needed along with dollar amounts. So I just wanted to clarify that point, that these are public documents and it's not something that is, I guess, is moving forward. So I find it hard to believe that no one knows of this project when there is such a huge amount of forced right-of-way acquisitions with addresses listed, amounts of acreage listed, and dollar amounts, which is already budgeted by the city and county of Broomfield. So I apologize for maybe our passion tonight, but there are a lot of people seeking answers right now that this could affect.
Well, I appreciate the clarification. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Council's community and event updates are next. Does any member of the council have an update this evening? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, and Happy New Year to my fellow council colleagues and mayor and staff and to all the public. 2024 looks like it's off to a great start, and I hope that it's a great year for all of us. The first piece is Rocky Flats Stewardship Council. This is kind of an interesting conversation. We're at a unique place that we are going to be discussing at our February meeting. The history of the organization, what has been done, where the organization is going. Looking to really view this organization not so much in the last, decade plus since cleanup, but more so where is it going and what need is this group for the community and what is it going to be doing? So it's a very good conversation. It's timely, and I think that the members that are there, the public that is involved, will continue to guide that conversation. The 2024 meetings will all be virtual. That is a decision that the board is going to confirm in February, but just wanted to put that out there that is the plan for all of our 2024 meetings. And then the last piece is the triennial review is occurring this year with each group jurisdiction that is assigned to the Rocky Flat Stewardship Council will decide if they are going to continue to be a part of this group. And so that is something that will be confirmed as well as our next meeting. The Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Community Noise Roundtable, as many of you might remember, the January meeting was canceled. And we are going to be having our next meeting in February, on February 1st, Thursday at 6 p.m. This will be in person at the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. There's been a lot of news reports around the airport lately. And while those are conversations that some people in the community want to have, the focus of our community noise roundtable is around noise and mitigating that noise there. And we will work with the next director, we'll work with the interim director at the airport to do that. The Jefferson Parkway Public Highway Authority, this will be a virtual only meeting later this month on Thursday, January 18th, 2024. And then the last two pieces, I'm part of CCAT, Counties and Commissioners Acting Together. Legislative session starts tomorrow. And this was made fully aware to me today at the Community Solutions Legislative Breakfast. And the highlight of this was the Governor Polis was the keynote. He stated that this session will be dominated by transportation and transit. The conversation really revolves around that three-legged stool, housing, transportation, and land use. So I guess, you know, the conversations regarding Senate Bill 213 this past year, we are going to have many of those same conversations, but in a whole lot more bills as opposed to just one bill. So it starts tomorrow, and a lot of work for my council colleagues as we go through that. So thank you in advance, and thank you to staff for your support through that. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other council updates? Councilmember Leslie?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to take a minute to publicly express my appreciation to City Manager Hoffman and her team, and to the mayor, and to all of you for your understanding and your support during this past year. When Cheryl first became ill, I told her that I would resign from city council, and she basically said, don't, do not do that. She wanted me to stay and continue to serve, and I was able to attend almost every meeting until the last couple of weeks. I was able to continue my work with constituents, but clearly I was focusing my efforts on Cheryl's health. And I just was so blessed to have all of you understand and be supportive, and to help me out and to bear with me while I was going through that. And I just publicly wanted to share that with you all. I also appreciated so much those of you who were able to make Cheryl's celebration of life on the 27th. Those of you who were there know that I got COVID and I couldn't myself attend. And I wasn't able to see the audience from the Zoom virtual setup that we had. And I tried to acknowledge those of you who were there. And I found out later on I wasn't quite 100% accurate. Charlie was there, but Jean was sick herself. But I so appreciated your continued help and partnership. So I just needed to publicly share that with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Leslie. Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the Community Solutions legislative breakfast this morning, along with Councilmember Schaaf and Lim. It's definitely going to be an interesting legislative session, to say the least. So looking forward to that. I attended yesterday the NACO Finance, the National Association of Counties Finance, Pension, and Intergovernmental Affairs Steering Committee. The main focus of that was a legislative update federally, which largely was around the budget update. We're coming up on federal government shutdown here pretty soon if they don't pass the budgets. The good news is they have reached an agreement on the top line amount for the upcoming year for 2024. But they have not finalized the details of the individual spending bills. So that's still in the works, but it looks promising that they've reached an agreement on the top line. So hopefully the federal government won't shut down. And then I'm also attending this Friday, the CCAT Housing Fiscal Reform and Public Health Committee meeting virtually this Friday. So it's off to a fun start for the year.
I know it's already been so busy. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other council member updates? Oh, Councilmember Henkel, thank you.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? I had trouble with my microphone earlier.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just really quickly, I'm chairing the committee, the Metro Area County Commissioners, and we'll be meeting next week. We will be talking about Prop 123 and how we're going to utilize those funds regionally, particularly how we're going to use it regionally for services to serve those who are unhoused. We have elevated the unhoused as one of our top priorities. And alongside that, our migrant population who are here on temporary protected status or are here on other legal means are applying for their work permits, but it's taking a good 180 days just to even hear back. And so we will be working towards a resolution, and particularly during our NACO conference in February and the Immigration Task Force to push forward a resolution working towards limiting the amount of time that the government can give a work permit. So we're pushing for 30 days response time because these families need to start work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other council member updates? Well, I have attended 2 meetings of the State Property Tax Commission as I'm the Colorado Municipal League appointee representing mayors and cities and towns. And the first 2 meetings were basically presentations from folks from all over the taxing world. We saw a presentation on land value tax as opposed to property value, circuit breaker tax relief that's more income qualified, traditional property tax valuation that we do. So just kind of hearing all the different ways that taxes happen. We haven't made any decisions, obviously, yet. We have 4 more meetings. We're meeting every other Friday at the state capitol, and I'll keep reporting back as we dive into this, but I don't really have anything to report based on what we're going to do. We're still getting a lot of presentations from people, so more to come on that. Thank you all. Council's consideration of the consent agenda is next. Earlier this evening, Mayor Pro Tem requested that item 11B be moved to the consent agenda. The clerk will read all of the consent agenda items by title, and there'll be 1 opportunity for public comments and council questions and comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 7A through 7G and item 11B by title?
7A, approval of minutes of December 5th, 2023 and December 12th, 2023. 7B, resolution number 2024-01, designating the public place for posting notices of public meetings as required by Colorado's open meetings law. 7C, resolution number 2024-03, authorizing the purchase of a replacement police SWAT van, a replacement police mobile command post, a replacement street sweeper, a replacement tandem axle dump truck with snow and ice equipment, and 10 new Isuzu cabover trucks. 7D, resolution number 2024-21, appointing Broomfield representatives to the Community Corrections Board. 7E, resolution number 2024-10, authorizing a consulting agreement between Broomfield and Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company, Incorporated, for the Sunridge Lift Station Site Application and Rehabilitation Project. 7F, resolution number 2024-09, authorizing the First Amendment to the consulting agreement between Broomfield and BHA Design, Inc. for the Broomfield Bay Renovation Phase 4 project. 7G, resolution number 2023-154, approving the construction agreement between Broomfield and Western States Reclamation LLC for the Bruner Reservoir South Pipeline project. And 11B, resolution number 2024-13, approving the 2024 amendment to employment agreement between the city and county of Broomfield and the city and county attorney.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with public comments, starting in person. Would anyone like to comment on these items? Please come up to the podium. It would be items 11A through 7A through 7G and 11B.
Once again, my name is Marty Robinson. I live in Anthem Ranch. And I just wanted some clarification on the issue of the city attorney's compensation. First, let me say congratulations. That's I'm envious of anybody who can make almost $300,000 a year these days. Now, I'm sure she's worth every penny. You guys get paid the big bucks to figure that out, and I'm sure you've done that properly. But I noticed on the disclosure that there's a couple of things I had a question about. One is our attorney's salary is set at the 70th percentile. There's no clarification on how you come to that number, or whether you went from the 60th to the 70th, or from the 80th down to the 70th. So I'm curious about what is the nature of that analysis. And secondly, there's no mention of benefits. And I assume there's a benefit burden of anywhere between 25% and 40% in the city. I don't know what it is these days, but perhaps you could clarify what is the percentage benefits on the salary, because that's not disclosed in the document. So those are two questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Anyone else? Well, I hope somebody can follow up with Mr. Robinson on the process. Ms. Macklin?
She's, yes. Would you like her to come up?
Oh,
Are we doing-
okay. I love real-time answers. It's obviously the night where we break protocol. So don't let things fester. Just get it done.
Good evening, Nikki Macklin, Director of Human Resources. I'm having some Wi-Fi technical difficulties, so I've got Pat's here to help me. To answer your first question, the City and County of Broomfield has a compensation philosophy that they use across the organization, which also applies to city-appointed officials like Mrs. Rogers. So we have a compensation philosophy that is market-based. So we survey other agencies to look at what their city attorney in this example, what the actual incumbents make, and we set a salary range. So the reference to the 70th percentile that you mentioned is within that salary range that is a market-based salary range. So the council has made a determination based on Mrs. Rogers' education, experience, proficiencies, and performance that she should be placed in the 70th percentile of that particular salary range. And then the second question was in relation to the benefits package. So she is offered the same benefits package that the rest of the part-time and full-time benefited employees enjoy at the City and County of Broomfield. The particular percentage of her wage that is, I can't state right now. It would depend on whether she's elected, family coverage or not. Does that adequately address the question?
I think so.
Okay.
Mr. Robinson, you'd have to come up to the microphone because the people at home can't hear you. Okay.
I didn't want to delve into our city attorney's details of her benefit package and so on, but what is the average percentage? What is the percentage of benefits? Benefits is a percentage of salary for our city.
Are you talking about the budget? Like how much? Oh, that's a bigger question. It's big and it keeps growing. Ooh. Well, that's more of a budget question. We probably have to.
Right, but maybe our finance director's here, and just
He's not.
for my own edification, what is benefits as a percentage of salaries for the City and County of Broomfield? Is it 25%? Is it 40%?
No, it's a fair question.
That relates to the increase also. The
But she's
dollar
not here
increase.
because we don't have anything for her on the agenda. This is public comment, and so it's
It
not
seems that's a pretty significant number that everybody should know.
everybody.
Everybody,
Oh, okay. Well,
if you're looking at finance.
oh, well, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm part-time. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Macklin. Any other comments? All right. Any council questions or comments? Councilmember Lim and then Henkel.
I have what should be 3 short answers on 3 different items. On 7C, the purchase of the equipment. Most of the items that are enumerated have a certain amount of lead time that are listed. The Isuzu cabovers didn't have a lead time listed for purchase. So I wasn't clear from what that said. They are going to be used for residential street plowing. So it seems like we're taking a different approach now. We had employed a contractual service and we're buying these in order to do the residential street plowing ourselves. So depending on when those are coming in, I was curious, are we still using the contractual residential street plowing this year? That they're not coming in time, or are we moving this year already to getting rid of those contractual services?
Mr. Rutt.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Ken Rutt, Director of Public Works. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Lim. Roughly, it's about 5 months to receive these vehicles. The second part is we are continuing to use the contract services for this snow season. The contract runs through this year. And so we are preparing for the next snow season. These vehicles will also be used throughout the year for various other street, parks, rec activities.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. We know when citizens ask us, sometimes citizens ask us, who's plowing the streets, and I was of the mindset, okay, we've got the contractual in our own. Okay.
Right, we're making the recommendation for the change based on we can save about $1.3 million over the 5-year contract to do it internally and at the same time enhance the services.
Okay, great. Thank you. On 7F, the reconstruction of the bay. There's a statement that the schematic design drawings were delivered by the consultant in late September 2022. And then the project was delayed because we had to seek more funding. But now we are being asked to increase the funding for the design. So I was curious why we're redoing the design. Why was that necessary?
Ms. Allen.
Katie Allen, City and County Engineer. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Lim. So schematic design is just sort of the first step. And then we tabled it, rebudgeted the project with updated numbers, and now we want to restart to complete the design.
So. Okay, great. That project in particular, $10.365 million to reconstruct the bay, I think is a good illustration of the cost of our amenities in Brimfield for those who are looking at budget. And 7G, the construction of a reuse water pipeline south of Brunner Reservoir. So the cost went up from $555,000 to $1,300,000 in 1 year.
Councilmember Lim, I don't know when we first did that budget estimate of 550,000. I think it was probably more than a year ago. But yeah, in the last 2 years, we've seen more than doubling in cost of utility projects.
Okay.
So that estimate was a staff estimate before we even start design.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you for those questions, Councilmember Lim as well. I just have 2 questions about the SWAT vehicle. With the SWAT vehicle being 22 years old, I could have sworn we approved this while I was on council. Did we buy it new or was it used?
I remember us approving it, but I don't remember if it was new or used.
Chief Hempelman just
If it's
walked in.
20-something years old, it had to be used because it was, yeah.
Because I could have sworn we had already approved one, so I'm a little confused.
Chief Hempelman's coming up to the podium. She's got the info.
Hi, good evening. Anaya Hempelman. I wonder if you're thinking about the Bearcat. The SWAT vehicle is as old as 2002. That's actually the correct number. But we purchased a Bearcat a few years ago, which is an armored vehicle. So that is the difference.
Thank you.
Okay, what is the difference then between the Bearcat and the SWAT? Sorry.
Sure. So the SWAT vehicle is going to carry all the equipment and all the officers going to the call. The Bearcat is an actual armored vehicle, so bulletproof and doesn't hold as many officers inside. So it has a ram on it. It has all kinds of different. Picture the SWAT vehicle that we're purchasing right now is purely to bring the officers to the scene and to hold all of their equipment.
Okay, and then just one question about, I noticed that sometimes when we attend emergencies in other jurisdictions, so let's say the Boulder shooter incident, I believe we sent our SWAT vehicle. Are we reimbursed for those services and for the vehicle by other jurisdictions if they utilize our services? I just had that question in general, but specifically, are we being reimbursed for that SWAT vehicle at all?
So just to confirm your question, council member, if we are reimbursed when we go to another jurisdiction to assist with the critical incident? Is that correct?
Yeah.
No, we have mutual aid with other agencies. So we help them if they need it, they help us. And it's just, we have mutual aid contracts with them so that we can assist on an emergency situation.
Interesting. Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Marshall-Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one comment and one question. The comment, I just wanted to point out for everyone listening that under the tenure of Attorney Rogers, our litigation budget has significantly decreased the amount of money we've had to spend on litigation. So that is one of the reasons why council felt that she was eligible and deserving of the raise that we gave her. So just wanted to point that out. The one question I have is on the vehicles. I understand, I know that the EV is not available for these type of vehicles right now, but do we have any idea of where the technology is in relation to these type of vehicles and how in the future that will look like?
We do. We have a schedule. Our fleet team has a 5-year schedule and goals in order to, that's part of the KPIs, the key performance indicators. The conversation just today, Councilmember Marshall-Olson, is none of the power grids could have anticipated the number or push from the feds and or the state in order to have electric vehicles. So the grid just doesn't support it. So between the grid not necessarily supporting it right now from a residential or home perspective, the ongoing delays, I mean, we just heard Miss Allen, it's consistently across the board, it's 30 to 80% increase. We're seeing the same things and the same time delays on all of these, the EVs. And so oftentimes you may want an EV, but you need the vehicle before 3 years. Some of these vehicles are 2.5 years out because of the chips.
So is the technology available without the lead time? Does the equipment exist for these vehicles to be EV if we didn't have the lead time or the infrastructure?
It all depends on what specific vehicle you're talking about. And oftentimes when they're so new, part of the conversation that we've had in the past is they don't have the miles that we need because of the intermittent charging stations that are available. So it's really a comprehensive look rather than just saying we're going to have an EV. You need to look at a whole host of other components before you make a investment in those EVs.
Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other council member questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Is there a motion by council that the recommendations contained in the staff reports for agenda items 7A through 7G and item 11B be approved? Councilmember Leslie.
I move the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Delgadillo. Yes. Henkel,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Wynn,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. There is no business before the Board of Social Services this evening. The only item under council business this evening is a continued public hearing and council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2023-155 regarding an expansion to an existing storage operation. I'll now declare the public hearing open. First, staff will present a summary of the proposal. Next, we'll have the applicant's presentation. Then we'll ask for public comments and final comments from the applicant, and finally, questions from City Council. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. Anna Bertanzetti, Co-Director of Community Development and Planning Director, will introduce this item and hand it off to the applicant and then council questions. Ms. Bertanzetti.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. If I could have the next slide, please. So the project this evening is a request for a use by special review for expansion of an existing outdoor storage facility. It's located at 16,000 Huron Street. This project was heard by the Land Use Review Commission in October of 2023, and Commission voted 6-0, so unanimously to approve the request with conditions. A council member requested to call up this project for additional consideration, as is allowed under the Broomfield Municipal Code requirements for the development review process. The project was originally scheduled for the December 12th meeting, but as was mentioned, this hearing was continued from that date to allow the applicant to attend, since he had a conflict that evening. The property is located at the northeast corner of 160th Avenue and Huron Street. It's about 8 acres in size. The property is zoned A3 Agricultural Legacy Adams County District. The Legacy Adams County Code allows the outdoor storage as a conditional use. Broomfield doesn't really have a conditional use. Our equivalent is a use by special review. So that's the process that we're following this evening. The existing outdoor storage operation is storage of cars, boats, recreational vehicles, and trailers on the property. This use by special review this evening is only related to the expansion or the potential expansion of this use. And it's important to note that regardless of whether the application that's before you this evening is approved or not, the existing operation, as it's approved, would be able to remain in place. The property is located diagonally across from the United Pad. The United Pad has multiple producing wells in operation. In 2022, Broomfield adopted reverse setbacks for new residential development from pre-production, producing, and shut-in wells. So the minimum required reverse setback from producing wells for new residential is 2,000 feet. The site is located within that 2,000 feet of producing wells, and as such is limited in its potential for redevelopment opportunities to only non-residential and non-school uses. The current outdoor storage use is not impacted by those reverse setbacks. Next slide, please. The property is designated as mixed-use commercial in the Broomfield Comprehensive Plan, and the proposed use and the existing use are consistent with that designation. The project is also within the I-25 sub-area plan. The I-25 sub-area plan was approved by City Council as an advisory document with the comprehensive plan and guiding the planning and evaluation of development projects that come forward within that area. The sub-area plan includes land use elements, design guidelines, transportation and traffic plans, and some other elements that are intended to help shape the development of the area. Staff has identified that the proposed expansion would be in conflict with the sub-area plan's overall vision for the area. Next slide, please. In July 2014, as I mentioned, a use by special review was approved already for the outdoor covered and uncovered storage of boats, RVs, cars, and utility and recreation vehicles for this property. The use by special review also allowed for the internal storage of some special order construction products, retail store equipment, antique and restored farm equipment, motorcycles, and bulk steel in specific structures within the site. This operation has remained on the site since the approval of the use by special review. The site currently includes also 4 houses. Only one of those houses is permitted on the lot, and therefore the other 3 existing homes are non-compliant. The residential use is not a part of the application this evening. The applicant owner were informed of the non-compliant status of these houses during the review of the use by special review application. The applicant purchased the property with these homes in place, and the prior owner had stated that during the original use by special review in 2014, that it was believed that all of those homes were built prior to 1960. The houses all existed at the time of annexation into Brimfield, which occurred around 2000. There are multiple accessory buildings on the site. Many of these are used for storage. These include pole barns, warehousing buildings and sheds. A cell phone tower with associated storage is also located at the east end of the lot. The applicant is seeking expansion of the outdoor storage operation to add 44 additional oversized parking spaces. These can accommodate boats, recreational vehicles, and trailers. No new structures are proposed on the site. The site plan depicts the new parking area. It's in the dark gray shaded area. A little hard to read on the screen, but it does show up in the printed memorandum as well. The applicant's site design makes no changes to the existing site access. The site has been reviewed by Brimfield's traffic engineering team, and they have no objections to the site access remaining in place even with the expansion. Next slide, please. On October 23rd, 2023, as I mentioned, LERC held a public hearing and recommended, or actually did approve the application with a 6-0 vote with 3 conditions. Those conditions included clarification about the call-up process, or actually confirmation of it, I should say, a requirement to install a solid 6-foot fence in key locations, and a requirement to install signage regarding the rules of the property. The fence and signage conditions were added specifically to address comments that came up during the public hearing with the Land Use Review Commission. And the details of those conditions are included in the screen as well as within the packet. The red lines on the screen delineate existing and proposed 6-foot tall fence segments, and the green lines are actually an 8-foot fence segment that is required in key areas along the north property boundary. They're generally between the buildings. As I mentioned, these were conditions of the approval. Next slide, please. Uses by special review are exempt from a concept review requirement, so there was not one held for this project, but there was a neighborhood meeting held as detailed in the staff memorandum. No residents attended the virtual meeting. To the best of staff's knowledge, the public notice requirements were met for this project prior to the December 13th council meeting date, and the project was continued to a date certain, so public notice requirements were not repeated. As previously noted, staff had identified the one key issue as not being consistent with the sub-area plan vision for this property. It should be noted that it is anticipated that eventually the project will be available for redevelopment as additional infrastructure becomes available and around this property to make it available for additional uses such as a non-residential use, since it is in close proximity to the multi-pad site. That concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is also here this evening and has a presentation prepared as well.
Thank you for that. Next is the applicant presentation. Just as we asked staff to keep their presentations brief, I asked the applicant to be concise, but it's a short meeting, so, will the applicant's representative please identify themselves for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Ms. Mayor and City Council. Mike Cooper. I am the owner's rep for Storage Farms, 712 Main Street, Louisville, Colorado, 80027. Storage Farms is an outdoor storage facility located at the northeast corner of 160th and Huron. We are here tonight to request a small expansion to the existing area to allow for additional storage of boats, RVs, and trailers. If you could advance the next slide, please. The site is about 8 acres in size, and as you can see in the blue outline here, just north of the Amazon distribution facility on the south side of 160th Avenue down on the bottom of the site. It is one of several 5 to 10 acre parcels that are within the baseline PUD area, which is outlined in red here. But they are not, this parcel and those parcels are not part of that mixed use master plan community. These several parcels will likely serve as an extension of the baseline industrial district, which runs along the north side of 160th Avenue and is currently developing from west to east towards these parcels, which are labeled there as vacant adjacent parcels there in the blue parcel. This land is designated as mixed-use commercial in the comp plan. The property was originally acquired with the intention of residential development or mixed-use residential development with the existing income to help carry the property up until the time of development. Next slide, please. In 2022, as was mentioned, the city adopted the 2,000-foot reverse setback to oil and gas production facilities. So you can see the United well pre-production facilities located there in the bottom left. Residential use will only be allowed outside of the white circle there. So there really isn't much land left to have any residential on here. So the site will ultimately likely be light industrial use or commercial use. On this slide, the subject parcel with the storage facilities, the bottom half of the rectangle shown here. The Storage Farms ownership group also owns the 10 acres to the north, the northern rectangle there. And then further to the north is an existing residence, which is really our primary constituent here, who I believe is here tonight and has some comments likely on this project. The remaining context around this site is vacant with the exception of the Amazon facility to the south. Next slide, please. Here's the expansion area shown in blue. And as you can see, it's only a ½ acre and it's a very small area in relation to the entire property. Next slide. This is our site plan from the USR submittal. We propose to add just a gravel road base in the green area, which shows the additional stalls. And also there will be a 6-foot privacy fence in blue. Currently, the 6-foot privacy fence just runs along 160th Avenue, and now it'll encompass the entire property along the south, east, and the north as well. And as was mentioned, between the buildings, we had met with Lyle and his wife, who are north of where it says 16080 Huron Street. They're about 300 feet to the north of this facility. They had some concerns when we met with them early on about headlights for vehicles coming between those buildings. So we added an 8-foot fence in between those buildings to help shield some of that light coming through there. When we first met with those neighbors too, we had a much larger expansion area proposed going much farther east. So we scaled that back quite significantly from our original proposal. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. We feel that we're meeting all of the review criteria for use by special reviews. The use is similar to the existing use on the site and industrial uses. There's a need and demand for boat and RV storage. There's no adverse environmental impacts, and we comply with the intent of the code for use by special reviews. Furthermore, there's minimal land disturbance, and we will add fencing along the east and the north for increased privacy for our neighbors and for vehicular traffic entering into Broomfield from the east. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. We'll now proceed with public comment, starting with in person. If anyone would like to be heard on this item, please come up to the podium. State your name and neighborhood for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Roxy Jewel Lockmore. I'm around this area an awful lot. I think it would be fine. It brings money into the city and we need money. So we have a lot of problems and any little bit of money will be a help. The only thing that I would like to see is I'd like to see the weeds mowed. I want it cleaned up. Right now, it doesn't look good. So the city needs to buckle down on that. If they don't do it because they want to, then the city needs to enforce it because this is a major intersection. And right now it's not very nice looking. And the fences and everything will be perfect. And I think it's a perfect use for this property.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Peter Kraus, Eagle Trace North. I just have a question actually about the gas and oil and the 2,000-foot setback. I think it was referenced that this was zoned as a mixed use property, which would indicate that initially residential would have been allowed on the property. I'm assuming that with the setback, that precludes and takes precedence over the residential development. I'm wondering, does the setback ever abate? So is the setback only active while the well is producing, and once the well quits producing, then does that setback abate so that could actually become a mixed use parcel? Because that seems like a really nice place for some density residential. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question, Mr. Kraus. I think the answer is when it's plugged and abandoned, then the setback goes away. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I remembered. Yes. Right. It goes down to 250-foot setback once it's plugged and abandoned. Okay. Anybody else? All right, then now we'll proceed with council questions. Does any member of council have any questions? I'll go to Marsh Holston first, then Councilmember Leslie. Okay, well, you were first. I looked the wrong way. You get to go first.
Thank you. I'm just
I can
curious.
keep track of all this. I can't wait till we move to Agenda Link and then it's in the queue. Just wait. Go ahead, Councilmember
Thank you.
Leslie.
You had mentioned that you were going to expand further to the east. Does that mean you own that property, or you just didn't buy the rest of that property for this project? That's question number one. And then I'm not sure who, but what is, if anything, planned for that property going east of this site?
Yeah, we own the land all the way to past the cell tower. Just that's kind of the eastern edge of the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you intend for some future use of that property?
Ultimately, we plan to redevelop it. And at this point in time, likely a commercial or light industrial land use, similar to what's you're seeing out there right now. But in the interim, if we were to expand this facility anymore, we would have to come through with another USR.
Yeah, I understand. All right, well, good. Thank you. That answers my question.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. I called up this one because we had some issues from, Lyle, and we had listened to him, and I just wanted to hear it a little bit more from the applicant. So I really appreciate your presentation tonight. It helped explain exactly how you're expanding. And then the privacy fences are going to be very important. Can the applicant address the concerns about Lyle talking about having an unauthorized expansion already? I don't know if you saw his email, but can the applicant address that concern from the neighbor?
I'm not aware of any unauthorized expansion. We acquired the property in 2022 and have not done any expansion in that time period.
Okay. I'll look at that picture more clearly and I'll send it off. And then staff, can you just address the key issue? It just sounds like the only key issue is that it's just not fitting with the overall plan, correct? And then that's just because it's part residential right now, is that correct?
Councilmember, yes. So the I-25 subarea plan has specific design guidelines. It's really envisioning the future of Brimfield in the I-25 corridor and the level of development that we're expecting there. This project is more of an interim condition. It would not be the final development, as the applicant mentioned, that is their intent to redevelop in the future. We wanted to identify that this interim condition, this storage use, is not fully in compliant with the vision of the I-25, and expansion of said use is further expansion of something that is not the final vision for the property.
Sure. Okay. And then so back to the applicant, are there plans on buying the house and expanding it further? Or what's the future plans after this?
We own those two parcels that I identified, and at this point, that's the land that we own and would redevelop.
Okay, on that part. Okay. All right. I would just, if you would mind, as the applicant, I appreciate hearing you talking with Lyle about this. He has also talked about you know, the construction that's happening up there too. So he's always keeping an eye on things. He did mention, like Roxy had mentioned earlier too, just talking about the weeds and making sure everything's cleaned up. I would just want to make sure that the fencing there is really protecting, you know, their point of view from his house, and just making sure that it's, you know, it's really kept up for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Marsh Holston.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have two questions for the applicant. One, the question from resident was raised about the weeds. Can you speak to any code compliance issues on this property and what is being done to remedy those?
I don't believe we've had any code compliance issues to my knowledge. We have met with Lyle, the neighbor to the north, several times, and we do own that one parcel that's right next to him that has one house on it. And we've maintained those weeds pretty adequately. We've met with him once or twice, talked to him and taken action after he said, hey, they're getting kind of high. And so we cut down that whole property several times. Lately, the complaint has been between some of the storage buildings and the fence. There's about a 15-foot area, which is kind of hard to access with a big mower. So I think we've hit that with some smaller hand mowers occasionally. And I think that just has been left unkempt perhaps over the last part of the summer into the fall.
Councilmember Marsh Holston, I'd just add that code compliance, I believe it was one of the residents up in that area that submitted a concern. So code compliance did go out and follow up on December 14th. And to my knowledge, I don't have an update tonight, but I do know that they engaged with the folks at Storage Farms LLC regarding some of those complaints, but I don't have an update as to where that is. They were working with them on that, on those.
Yeah, I was referring to that email, so thank you. And the other question I have is, so am I understanding that your intention is this to be a temporary development? You're going to expand this, but then once you develop the whole plot, you're going to develop the entire thing, tear this all down and develop the whole plot?
That's correct, yeah.
I guess my question is, what assurances do we have that that's actually going to happen? My concern is that in the past, we've been promised by developers, approve A, we'll do B in the future, and A has happened, but B never does. So I
Yeah,
guess
I mean, it's not really a quid pro quo offer. I mean, we're expanding it. In the past year, our taxes have doubled. They got reassessed and it basically doubled. So we wanted to carry the income to carry the property. So we just need a small incremental expansion to help carry the property. As was mentioned, the utilities are not quite in the area yet for water and sewer. And when those improvements do come in line, I think that there'll be a much better viability for redevelopment.
What's your timeline on that?
I don't have time. I would gander maybe 3 to 5 years or something like that. And ultimately, I mean, I don't know how long those production facilities will be going for. That could be 10 to 20 years, but I think that ship has sailed for the most part.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. That's all the question I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Lim.
What was the consideration with Lark on only requiring the 8-foot fence between the buildings? This is my question, wouldn't it be possible? Would there be anything to prohibit the property owner from taking down those buildings? And then wouldn't you want the continuous fence along there?
They're generally solid buildings on the back, so there really wouldn't be a need for another fence because they're kind of solid. They're all solid on the back that faces to the north to the neighboring properties. So it would be an ineffective fence. So mainly it was between the buildings where those gaps were. It would be most important to have the fence.
Okay, but that didn't address my question of, couldn't the property owner take the building down and then the property owner to the north's complaint was that they see into the property, the lights go through the property and things like that. So if the storage facility took the buildings down for some reason, then the fence would not be whole to block the light.
Thank you, council member. With a use by special review, the site plan is a part of the approval. So those buildings as they're configured are actually a part of the approval. So they are not able to take them down unless they were to come through and amend the use by special review.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Were the accessory dwellings and the cell tower in compliance? We heard a whole list of everything out of compliance there with grandfathering in.
Yes, there's quite a bit that is out of compliance. As I mentioned, the 4 houses on one lot, but was the existing condition at the time of annexation. The cellular tower did go through proper permitting. We review amendments as required. It's going through processes to make upgrades occasionally or to add providers to the tower, and they follow all development review requirements that I'm aware of.
Okay, great. There was a note that when the applicant is asking to expand for 44 slots, that there's actually no striping on the lot. So is that indicating they could put more or less than 44 additional boats or vehicles of some kind? There's no limit to it to 44 per se. It's just that's the space allocation that you're indicating.
That's correct. I think those are generally the bays that would be outlined. I think it's like a little like string or rope that identifies that, since it's just gravel road base that we're putting down. And generally, yeah, it's a storage area. It's not necessarily confined to that configuration, I suppose, but we're just indicating that's kind of the area of expansion is finite. And the exact configuration, I suppose, of those stalls could change a little bit, but generally there's a site plan. That's what we're showing. And I think it would be enforceable to maintain those stalls as we're showing them if they were significantly different. And that's our plan, is to stripe them that way.
Could staff address that? What is enforceable when they say there's 44 additional stalls but there's no striping on the lot?
Right. And I think we add that clarification for that exact reason, because as he mentioned, it's kind of a gravel base, so they can't indicate the number or the stripe locations. We are able to enforce ensuring that there's the drive aisles that remain clear for access. And really it's the square footage of the expansion. And we have them show the general area of those spaces on the site plan to give us a good idea of how that is configured, where the drive aisles are. But you're right, someone could put 2 small vehicles in one spot. It's not really a per vehicle number that we're enforcing. It's more of the area that is utilized for the outdoor storage.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
All right, thank you. Any other council member questions? Well, my question is, because I'm familiar with the parcel on the corner, and I do have concerns because it is a gateway image. And I do want to know why the weeds have not been kept up with.
Yeah, we can do a better job. I don't have a reason why, other than deferred maintenance. It's just, any reason.
Fire hazard too.
Yeah, yeah.
And your neighbor, Mr. Wenstedt, he's meticulous with his, not Mr. Wenstedt, he was the former owner, Frederick. He's meticulous with his property. So I think he really expects the same.
Sure.
From the neighbors.
Sure. And I think we have done a pretty good job on that, and his adjoining parcel. We could do a better job on the storage parcel, I think, in those small nooks and crannies around the buildings, especially, for sure.
And are you allowing vehicles that are in disrepair, that are just falling apart? Like if people just want to dump there, like a salvage yard?
No.
They have to be operable?
I don't know if they need to be operable, but no, it's not a salvage yard by any means. No.
Okay. And is the fence going to be completely screening the?
Yeah, I think there was a condition of the lurk that there'd be a solid fence, that there's no holes or transparencies through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thanks.
All right. I lost my script spot. Any other questions? Then next, the public hearing is closed. Next is council's consideration of the proposed resolution. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2023-155, 16,000 Huron Street, use by special review for an expansion to an existing storage use in the A-3A zone district.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Mayor Pro Tem?
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Nguyen?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Marshallson?
Thank you, Mayor. Based on the key issue that staff identified of the sub-area plan, the maintenance on the current facility, and the inability for us to guarantee that this will be redeveloped in any realistic timeframe, I'm going to oppose this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilmember Lim?
I guess I understand the situation with the United Pad nearby. That the residential is precluded for a good reason. We don't have to discuss all those for our reverse setbacks right now, but I mean, that the applicant said it's possible that it would be 10 to 20 years. I mean, we were told those pads could be there for 20 to 30. So given the constraints of the usage of the property, I have hesitancy also, like Councilmember Marshallson, about the gateway image, but given the constraints of the property that citing the pads put into place in the first place, then I think we should go ahead and approve this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Henkel?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is just a small expansion. I just think that we had a neighbor that was interested in just making sure that what they've already had was kept up. I did forward to staff just now in the council, the email again from Mr. Lyle and wanted to just make sure that that is going to be addressed between the applicant and Lyle, talking about any sort of unauthorized expansion. I would like that communication to be had between the applicant and Lyle as well. And if there are any issues, I will reach out to Lyle myself. But again, I think this is just a small expansion, and I look forward to making sure that there's privacy fences where it's needed, and that it's not too much a burden on the neighbors. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Mayor. Can I just ask for about a 2-minute break?
Absolutely.
Jump in. Thanks. I just wanted to get confirmation of something I was thinking of. So LERC, when LERC gave their advisory opinion on this approval, they had conditions. Those conditions are not automatic in your approval unless council adopts those conditions. So it sounds like from the questions and the discussions that council is interested in imposing the same conditions. So I would suggest that if a council member agrees, they move to add a condition that mimic those conditions that were imposed by LERC.
Okay.
Ms. Burton-Zetti, is that sufficient enough? And Ms. Hartman, that'd be okay for our resolution? All right, thank you.
So is it a conditional approval or just that we're adding the conditions that LERC applied?
Yeah, so here I'll make the motion, and if somebody agrees, they can say so moved. So somebody would be, I move to condition this approval on the same conditions that were in the LERC resolution.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Nguyen? Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion on this? I appreciate that, Ms. Rogers. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cohen,
Yes.
Delgadillo,
Yes.
Henkel,
Yeah.
Leslie,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Marshallson,
No.
Nguyen,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 9-1. Thank you very much. The city and God, we're already done. The city and county attorney's report is next. Ms. Rogers, do you have a report?
I do have a short report. As council is aware, we moved the Risk and Safety Management Division from finance into my office. And starting tomorrow, we have our new admin, a claims manager, that will be starting. So we will be fully staffed in the risk division. So we're really excited to do a lot of claims analysis in 2024, which is, you know, how I fill my bucket, I guess. So that's some good news. But other than that, that is all. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Thank you very much. The city and, did anybody have any questions for Ms. Rogers? All right, the city and county managers report is next. Ms. Hoffman?
I do not, thank you. But I am going to have sharing some great news moving forward.
Okay, good. Can't wait next time. All right, then there is no legislative update yet or business before the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority or the Arista Local Improvement District Board of Directors this evening. Additionally, there are no special reports or requests for future action concluding the items on this evening's agenda. Is there any other business to come before the council? Seeing no further business, the council meeting is